On a Tuesday morning at General Hospital, a man I hadn't seen in 18 years walked through those automatic doors carrying his daughter, looked straight at me sitting in the waiting room, and said loud enough for everyone to hear, "Well, Dorothy Johnson, still scrubbing toilets for a living?" I'm Dorothy Mae Johnson. I'm 63 years old. I looked up from my magazine, met his eyes, and said one word, "No." Then I went back to reading. If you're listening from somewhere far away, drop your city in the comments so I can see how far this has traveled. And please, stay with me until the end, because what that man, Robert Sullivan, didn't know when he walked into that hospital on September 14th, 2024, was that the chief pediatric resident who was about to save his daughter's life was the same boy he'd called defective and walked away from 26 years ago. The same boy he said would never amount to anything. The same boy he abandoned in a hospital room when he was just 3 hours old. Let me tell you how we got here. The waiting room at Birmingham General Hospital smells like disinfectant and burnt coffee. I'd been sitting there for about 20 minutes, waiting for my son Isaiah to finish his rounds so I could sign some insurance papers. He'd added me to his medical insurance. Made me the beneficiary on everything, actually. "Mama," he'd said last week, "you took care of me for 28 years. Now it's my turn." I was 63 years old, and for the first time since I was 35, I didn't have to worry about money. Didn't have to wake up at 4:30 in the morning to catch 2 buses to clean office buildings. Didn't have to count pennies at the grocery store or decide which bill could wait another month. My baby had done that for me. I was flipping through a Good Housekeeping magazine, one of those fall decorating issues, when I heard the commotion at the entrance. The automatic doors whooshed open and a man rushed in, carrying a teenage girl in his arms. She was maybe 14, 15 years old. Her skin was pale, lips almost blue, and she was shaking, not conscious, but not quite unconscious either. Seizing. "I need help," the man shouted. "My daughter, she's having a seizure. We need a doctor now." The reception staff jumped into action. A nurse came running with a wheelchair, but the man wouldn't put the girl down. "No time. Where's the ER? She needs help now." The nurse was trying to calm him, directing him when he turned, just for a second, and our eyes met. It took him about 3 seconds to recognize me. I watched it happen. The confusion, then the shock, then that smile. That same crooked smile I remembered from 26 years ago. The smile he used to give me right before he said something cruel. The nurse took the girl from his arms. "Sir, we've got her. Let us do our job," and rushed her through the double doors into the emergency room. And he just stood there in the middle of that waiting room, staring at me. I didn't look away. I'd learned a long time ago that the only way to face fear was to look it straight in the eye. He was older. His hair was completely white, thinning on top. His face had that gray, unhealthy color that comes from stress and bad living. He'd lost weight, not in a healthy way, but in that gaunt way that makes a person look worn down. His clothes were clean but cheap. Walmart button-down, wrinkled khakis, shoes that needed replacing. This was not the successful engineer who'd driven a Mercedes and wore Italian suits. This was a man life had chewed up. "Dorothy," he said, walking toward me with that same arrogant walk, except now it just looked pathetic. "Dorothy Johnson, what are you doing here?" I closed my magazine slowly, placed it on the chair beside me, and met his eyes. "Waiting for my son." He let out this bitter laugh. "Your son? Right. That boy with the—" He paused, looked around at the other people in the waiting room who were now watching us, lowered his voice. "That boy with the problems. Where is he? What's he do now? Janitorial work? Stocking shelves somewhere?" I could have told him right then. Could have said, "No, Robert, our son is a doctor. He's the chief pediatric resident at this hospital. He's probably going to be the one saving your daughter's life." But I didn't. I just said, "Isaiah is doing very well. Thank you for asking." "Isaiah," he repeated, like the name was strange in his mouth, like he hadn't chosen it himself 26 years ago when we were still married and he still believed his son would be perfect. Is he still? Still what, Robert?" "You know, still, and still the way he was." That's when I felt it. Not anger, not even hurt. Just this cold, clear certainty that this man was about to learn the most important lesson of his life. "Isaiah has Down syndrome," I said clearly. "He always has. He always will. And yes, he's very much alive." Robert shook his head. I always wondered. Thought maybe nature would have, you know, he shrugged, taken care of it. Behind him, an elderly woman gasped. A young mother pulled her child closer. The security guard by the door took a step forward. I stood up, all 5 feet 4 inches of me, looked up at this man who'd tried to break me and said, "You should go be with your daughter, Robert. She needs you." "That's what I'm trying to tell you," he said, his voice rising. "They won't let me back there yet, so I'm stuck out here with," he gestured at me, "with you, the woman who ruined my life." "I ruined your life? You kept him," Robert hissed. "The doctor said we had options. He told us at the ultrasound. We could have avoided all of this. But you insisted on having that defective baby, and then you wanted me to play daddy to it, and that's enough." The voice came from behind us, deep, calm, authoritative. Robert and I both turned. Standing in the doorway from the emergency room, wearing a white coat with a stethoscope around his neck and a badge that read, "Dr. Isaiah Johnson, Chief Resident Pediatrics," was my son. Isaiah was 26 years old, stood 5 feet 9 inches tall, and had the characteristic features of Down syndrome. Almond-shaped eyes, a flatter nose bridge, a slightly protruding tongue. His hair was cut short and professional. His white coat was spotless. Behind him stood 3 younger doctors, residents, all holding tablets, all looking at him with clear respect. He'd been explaining something to them. I could hear the tail end of it, which is why we always check the genetic panel for GLUT, 1 deficiency in cases of intractable epilepsy presenting before age 2. "Dr. Martinez, pull up the Harper study from 2021. I want you all to read it before rounds tomorrow." "Yes, Dr. Johnson," a young woman said, typing notes into her tablet. Then Isaiah looked up and saw me. His whole face changed, lit up with that smile that had gotten me through 28 years of struggle. "Mama!" He excused himself from the residence and walked toward me, arms open. I hugged my baby. He smelled like hospital soap and coffee. "Sorry I'm running late," he said. "We had an emergency admission in PICU, needed my assessment." "I heard," I said, looking past him at Robert, who was standing there with his mouth open. "Take your time, baby. I'm not in a hurry." That's when Isaiah noticed Robert. Not recognized him. He'd never met the man. Not really. Just noticed an older man standing too close to his mother, looking distressed. Isaiah's expression shifted to professional concern. "Sir, are you all right? Are you with a patient?" Robert couldn't speak. He was just staring, eyes moving from Isaiah's face to his badge to his white coat and back again. "Sir," Isaiah prompted. "I'm Dr. Johnson. Can I help you?" "You're—" Robert's voice came out as a croak. "You're a doctor?" Isaiah glanced at me, then back at Robert. "Yes, sir. I'm the chief resident in pediatrics. Are you experiencing a medical emergency? Should I call someone?" "No, my daughter, they took her back for a seizure." Isaiah's entire demeanor shifted. He pulled out his tablet. "What's your daughter's name?" "Savannah. Savannah Sullivan." Isaiah's fingers flew over the screen. 14 years old? Just admitted 10 minutes ago?" "Yes. Is she okay? Can I see her?" "She's being evaluated now," Isaiah said, still scanning the screen. "History of seizures since—" He paused, reading. "Since 6 months old? Multiple hospitalizations?" "Yes. She has epilepsy. Bad epilepsy. Nothing works. We've tried everything." Isaiah was nodding, still reading. His photographic memory was already processing everything on that screen. I could see it, the way his eyes moved, the slight furrow between his brows. He was recording every detail. "Mr. Sullivan," Isaiah said, looking up, "I need to examine your daughter. Are you her legal guardian?" "I'm her father." "All right, come with me. I'll need a complete medical history, every medication she's tried, every doctor she's seen, every test result you have." He turned to me. "Mama, this is going to take a while. Why don't you come back around 2 o'clock? "You sure, baby?" "I'm sure." He kissed my forehead. Then to Robert. "This way, Mr. Sullivan." It wasn't until they were halfway to the emergency room doors that Robert turned back to look at me. His face was white as paper. I sat back down, picked up my magazine, and waited. "I need to take you back now. Back to when I was 35 years old and thought I had my whole life figured out." It was March of 1996. I was working at Helen's Fine Dress Shop on Dexter Avenue in Montgomery, Alabama. I'd been a seamstress there for 8 years, started as an apprentice at 27, worked my way up to head tailor. I made good money for a black woman in Alabama in the 90s. Not great money, but good. Enough to rent a nice one-bedroom apartment. Enough to help my mama with her bills before she passed. Robert Sullivan came into the shop on a Thursday afternoon. I remember because Thursdays were usually slow, and I was in the back, hemming a wedding dress. Helen came back and said, "Dorothy, we have a gentleman out front needs 3 suits altered. Says he's new in town, starts work next week, needs them by Saturday. You up for rush service?" Rush service meant extra money. "Send him back," I said. Robert was 43 years old, just moved from Atlanta to Montgomery to take a senior engineering position at a construction firm. He was handsome, 6 feet tall, broad shoulders, salt and pepper hair that he wore neat. He dressed well, moved with confidence, had that deep voice that made you pay attention. "I hear you're the best," he said, hanging the suits on my rack. "I'm good at what I do," I replied. I wasn't raised to brag. "These need to fit perfect," he said. "I'm meeting with the board of directors Monday. First impressions matter." "They do," I agreed. "Step up on the platform. Let's see what we're working with." For the next 30 minutes, I measured and pinned while Robert talked. He talked about Atlanta, about his career, about his plans. He'd divorced 5 years ago. She wanted different things, he said vaguely, and was ready for a fresh start. "What about you?" he asked. "You married?" "No, sir." "Boyfriend?" "No, sir." "Pretty woman like you? That's surprising." I kept pinning. "I've been focused on my career." "I respect that," he said. "But you shouldn't close yourself off to possibilities." I looked up at him. "I don't close myself off, Mr. Sullivan. I'm just selective." He smiled. "Call me Robert." I finished those suits 2 days later, made them fit him like they were custom made because that's what I do. When he came to pick them up Saturday morning, he said, "Dorothy, these are perfect. How much do I owe you?" I told him, $85. He pulled out 5 20s. "Keep the change, and let me take you to dinner to say thank you properly." I should have said no. Looking back now, with everything I know, I should have seen the signs. The way he always had to be in control. The way he talked about his ex-wife with that edge of bitterness. The way he'd mentioned, casual-like, that his older brother had died young. Birth defect, cerebral palsy. My parents never really recovered from it. But I was 35 years old. I'd been alone for a long time, and Robert Sullivan seemed like a good man. We dated for 8 months before he proposed. 8 months of nice dinners, flowers sent to the shop, weekend trips to the Gulf Coast. He was generous, attentive, made me feel special, made me feel like I was the center of his world. We married in December of 1996 at Dexter Avenue Baptist Church, the same church where Dr. King had preached, which felt important to me. My mama had passed 2 years before, so I didn't have much family there. Just some cousins, my church family, my friends from work. Robert's family didn't come. "They're in Atlanta," he said. "It's a long drive. They'll meet you later." They never did. We'd been married 2 years when I got pregnant. I was 37, which the doctor said was advanced maternal age, but I was healthy, strong. I took my vitamins, did everything right. Robert was thrilled. "A son," he kept saying. "I know it's going to be a son. Isaiah. We'll name him Isaiah." "What if it's a girl?" I asked. "It's not," he said with complete confidence. "I can feel it." He started buying things. A crib, a stroller, tiny suits and ties. He talked about teaching our son to play baseball, taking him to Braves games, sending him to good schools. He had it all planned out. I remember the day everything changed. It was my 20th week ultrasound, July 15th, 1998. We went to Dr. Mitchell's office on Court Street. The room was cold, the gel was cold, and I was nervous, even though everything had been fine at all my other appointments. Dr. Mitchell moved the wand around my belly, clicking and measuring. Then he stopped, moved the wand to a different angle, clicked some more. Called in his colleague, Dr. Barnes. They spoke in low voices, pointing at the screen. "Is something wrong?" I asked. "Doctor." Mitchell turned to us with that expression doctors get when they're about to deliver bad news. "Mr. and Mrs. Sullivan, we're seeing some markers that may indicate a chromosomal abnormality." "What does that mean?" Robert demanded. "It means," Dr. Mitchell said carefully, "that your baby may have Down syndrome." We can't be certain without an amniocentesis. That's where we take a sample of the amniotic fluid. But these markers are fairly indicative. The room went silent except for the sound of my baby's heartbeat on the monitor. Strong and steady. Perfect. I looked at Robert. His face had gone completely white, then red, then something I'd never seen before, disgust. That's impossible, he said, standing up. Test again. Run it again. Robert, I started. No, he said. No, this isn't happening. Not to me. Not again. Dr. Mitchell tried to explain. Mr. Sullivan, Down syndrome is relatively common. About 1 in 700 births. The child can live a full, happy... Get rid of it, Robert said. Excuse me? Dr. Mitchell looked shocked. My wife wants to terminate. Schedule it. Robert! I sat up, gel still all over my stomach, baby still alive inside me. I'm not terminating. Dorothy, be realistic. A baby like that? The cost? The care? It'll ruin our lives. It's a baby, I said, our baby. It's a defect, he said, and I'll never forget the coldness in his voice. My brother had cerebral palsy. I watched it destroy my parents. I will not go through that again. He walked out of that office, left me there on the examination table with Dr. Mitchell and Dr. Barnes staring at the door. Dr. Mitchell helped me clean up the gel. Mrs. Sullivan, whatever you decide, we'll support you, but you don't have to decide today. I put my hand on my belly, felt the baby move. I'm keeping my baby, I said. That night, Robert didn't come home, or the next night. On the third day, he showed up, packed a suitcase, and said, I can't do this, Dorothy. I thought I could, but I can't. Can't or won't? I asked. What's the difference? He zipped the suitcase. I'm going to stay at the extended stay on East Boulevard. You should think about what you really want. I want my baby. Then you'll have to choose, he said. That baby or me. I chose my baby. Isaiah Thomas Johnson was born on November 3, 1998, at Baptist Medical Center in Montgomery. 7 pounds, 4 ounces, 19 inches long. I went into labor at 3 in the morning, called Robert's hotel room 6 times. He never picked up. My neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, drove me to the hospital, stayed with me through 12 hours of labor, held my hand when they told me to push. When Isaiah was born, the doctor held him up and I saw his face, those beautiful almond-shaped eyes, that flat nose bridge, those tiny, perfect features. It's a boy, the doctor said gently. Mrs. Sullivan, you have a beautiful baby boy. The nurse cleaned him and brought him to me. He was crying, that strong, healthy newborn cry that means their lungs are working good. Hello, Isaiah, I whispered. Hello, my beautiful boy. Mama's here. I looked up at Mrs. Patterson. She was crying. He's perfect, she said. Robert showed up 6 hours later. He stood in the doorway of my hospital room like he was afraid to come in. It's true then, he said. He has it. He has Down syndrome, I said. Yes. Robert took 2 steps into the room, looked at Isaiah sleeping in the bassinet beside my bed. His face showed everything he was feeling: disappointment, fear, disgust. I can't do this, he said. Then don't, I replied. I was tired, so tired. My body hurt. My heart hurt worse. If you can't love your own son, then leave. He reached into his jacket and pulled out an envelope, set it on the bedside table. There's $10,000 in there, he said, for therapy or whatever he needs. It's all I can do. Robert, I'm sorry, he said, and maybe he meant it. Maybe he really was sorry. I'm sorry I'm not strong enough to be what he needs. I watched my brother suffer. I watched my parents die inside. I won't go through that again. He's not your brother, I said. He's your son. No, Robert said quietly. He's your son. I'm signing away my rights. My lawyer will send papers. He walked out of that hospital room, walked out of our lives. I sat there, holding Isaiah, with that envelope on the table and tears running down my face. A nurse came in, young black woman named Jennifer. She looked at the door Robert had just walked through, then at me. He's a fool, she said. Yes, I agreed. That baby is a blessing. Yes. She came over and looked down at Isaiah. What's his name? Isaiah Thomas Johnson. Isaiah, she repeated. Prophet's name. He's going to do great things. Yes, I said, even though I had no idea how that would be possible. Yes, he is. The first 5 years were the hardest years of my life. Robert's $10,000 lasted exactly 9 months. Physical therapy cost $135 per session, twice a week. Occupational therapy was another $120 per session, once a week. Speech therapy started when Isaiah was 18 months old, $90 per session, twice a week. Do the math. That's over $2,000 a month. My job at Helen's paid $1,800 a month. Robert's child support? $0. He'd signed away his rights 3 weeks after Isaiah was born. The judge approved it. No father meant no obligation. I had to make a choice. I went back to work when Isaiah was 8 weeks old. Mrs. Patterson kept him during the day for $25. She gave me a discount because she said, "That baby is a blessing, and I won't profit off blessings." But Helen's closed at 6, and that wasn't enough. So I got a second job cleaning offices downtown, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. to midnight. $40 a night, cash. I'd work at the dress shop from 9 to 6. Rush home, feed Isaiah, do his exercises. The physical therapist had shown me how to strengthen his low muscle tone. Then Mrs. Patterson would come over and stay with him while I went to clean offices. I'd get home around 12:30, sleep 4 hours, and do it all again. On weekends, I cleaned houses. $35 for a basic clean, $50 for deep cleaning. I'd take Isaiah with me, carry him in a baby carrier while I scrubbed floors and cleaned bathrooms. Some clients complained. "It's unprofessional," Mrs. Whitmore on Sycamore Street said. "I don't pay good money to watch you babysit." I apologized, finished cleaning her house, and never went back. But you want to know something? Isaiah was happy, even developing slower than other babies, sitting up at 11 months instead of 6, walking at 2.5 instead of 1. He smiled all the time. When I came home at night, even though it was late, his face would light up. He'd reach his little arms out to me and make this sound, this happy sound that meant mama. Every bit of exhaustion was worth that sound. Isaiah was 6 years old when we discovered something extraordinary. He was in kindergarten at Loveless Elementary School. Miss Barbara Holloway was the principal, a white woman in her 50s who'd spent 3 years teaching in special education before becoming administrator. When I'd brought Isaiah to enroll, nervous he'd be rejected like he had been at 2 other schools, she'd looked at my boy and said, "We'll make this work." And she did. She trained the teachers, got special materials, made sure Isaiah had what he needed. One day in October 17th, 2004, I remember because it was a Monday and I'd just gotten paid. Miss Holloway called me at work. "Mrs. Johnson, can you come in after school today? I need to discuss something about Isaiah." My heart dropped. "Is he in trouble?" No, nothing like that. But I need to show you something." I left work early, losing 2 hours of pay, and went to the school. Miss Holloway met me in her office. Isaiah was there, playing with blocks on the floor. "Mrs. Johnson," she said, "how much do you read to Isaiah at home?" "Every night," I said. "Why?" She pulled out a book. "We read this to the class on Friday, The Very Hungry Caterpillar. You know it?" I nodded. "Watch this." Miss Holloway turned to Isaiah. "Isaiah, honey, can you tell Mrs. Johnson about the caterpillar?" My 6-year-old son looked up from his blocks and recited, "In the light of the moon, a little egg lay on a leaf. One Sunday morning, the warm sun came up and pop! Out of the egg came a tiny and very hungry caterpillar." He continued. Word for word, the entire book, every single word in perfect order, including "and he was still hungry," repeated 5 times. When he finished, he went back to playing with blocks like it was nothing. Miss Holloway looked at me. "Mrs. Johnson, Isaiah heard that book once. One time, 3 days ago. This morning I asked him to tell me about it, and he recited the entire thing. Is that normal?" "No," she said gently. "It's not normal. It's called savant syndrome. About 10% of people with Down syndrome have it. It means Isaiah's brain processes memory differently than most people. He has an extraordinary ability to remember things exactly as he sees or hears them." I stared at my boy. "What does this mean?" "It means," Miss Holloway said with a smile, "that Isaiah has a very special gift." Over the next 2 years, we tested what Isaiah could do. He memorized all 50 state capitals after hearing them twice. He learned the periodic table of elements at age 7. Not just the names, but the atomic numbers, atomic weights, and electron configurations. By age 8, he knew every bone in the human body, could draw them, label them, tell you what they did. His speech was still delayed. He struggled with certain sounds, spoke slower than other kids. His fine motor skills were behind. He couldn't tie his shoes until he was 9, had trouble with buttons and zippers. Socially, he was awkward, didn't understand jokes, took everything literally. But his memory? His memory was perfect. Dr. Patricia Whitman, a developmental pediatrician at the Montgomery Children's Clinic, started seeing Isaiah when he was 7. She ran tests. IQ tests showed he was moderately intellectually disabled in most areas, scoring between 50 and 65. But his memory tests? Off the charts. 99th percentile. It's like his brain has a library, doctor, Whitman explained to me in her office on November 3, 2005, Isaiah's 7th birthday. He can store information perfectly. He just processes it differently than neurotypical children. And his area of interest is clearly science and medicine. Why medicine? I asked. Dr. Whitman smiled. Ask him. So I did. That night at home I said, Baby, why do you like learning about bodies and medicine? Isaiah looked up from his anatomy book, a used copy I'd bought at a yard sale for $2. Because people are mean to me because I'm different. And doctors help people. So if I'm a doctor, I can help people who are different like me. He was 7 years old. Getting Isaiah into regular high school was a war. The school district wanted him in special education classes only. Separate building, separate curriculum, separate everything. I fought them. Brought Dr. Whitman's reports. Brought Miss Holloway's recommendations. Brought Isaiah's test scores in science and math, both at grade level, despite his disabilities. We compromised. Mainstream classes for science and math, special education support for English and social studies, and an individualized education program that gave him extra time on tests and permission to use a computer for writing assignments. Isaiah thrived. Sort of. Academically, he got straight A's in biology, chemistry, and algebra. He struggled with literature, couldn't understand metaphors, got confused by symbolism. History was difficult because it required essay writing, and Isaiah's writing skills were at about a 5th grade level. Socially, it was brutal. Kids called him retard. They mocked the way he talked. One boy, Tyler Harrison, used to walk behind Isaiah in the hallways, imitating his gait. Isaiah's muscle tone was still low, made him walk a little different. Not a lot, but enough that cruel teenagers noticed. I found out about it when I picked Isaiah up early one day for a doctor's appointment. He was 14 years old. I saw Tyler and 2 other boys following Isaiah, laughing, recording him on their phones. I marched right up to them. You boys think that's funny? They looked at me, this 5'4" black woman in a cleaning company uniform. Tyler smirked. We're just playing, ma'am. Play's over, I said. Delete that video. Or what? Or I call your parents and the principal and tell them you're bullying a disabled student, which is not only cruel, it's illegal under federal law. You know what ADA is? Americans with Disabilities Act? Violations can result in civil suits. So delete it. Now. Tyler's smirk disappeared. He deleted the video. But the bullying didn't stop. It just got sneakier. Isaiah never complained. Never told me when kids were mean. I'd find out from teachers, from other parents, from walking past the school at the wrong time. Why don't you tell me? I asked him once. Because you can't stop them, Mama, he said matter-of-factly. And it doesn't matter. I'm going to be a doctor. They're not. He was 15 years old and already had more strength than grown men I knew. Isaiah's junior year, we had to deal with the SAT. The school counselor, Mr. Davis, called me in for a meeting in September 2015. Isaiah was 16. Mrs. Johnson, Mr. Davis said, leaning back in his chair, I want to talk about Isaiah's future plans. He wants to go to college, I said. Pre-med. Mr. Davis smiled that smile, that patient, condescending smile. Mrs. Johnson, I admire Isaiah's determination. I really do. But let's be realistic. College is very challenging. Have you considered vocational training? There's an excellent program at the technical college. Isaiah is taking the SAT, I interrupted. Mrs. Johnson, he has a right to take it. With accommodations. Extended time, computer for the essay, separate room. That's in his IEP. Mr. Davis sighed. Even with accommodations, Mrs. Johnson, the SAT is designed for college-bound students. Isaiah's disability doesn't define his intelligence, I finished. We're taking the SAT. Isaiah took the SAT in December 2015 with double time and computer access. He scored 1,340, 720 on math, 620 on verbal. Not perfect, but solid. When I told Dr. Whitman, she hugged me. Dorothy, do you know what this means? Isaiah can go to a 4-year university. I cried right there in her office. Isaiah applied to 15 colleges during his senior year. We filled out every application together at the kitchen table, nights after I got home from work. He wrote his essay about Down syndrome and medicine. Dr. Whitman helped him revise it 17 times until it was as clear and powerful as Isaiah could make it. We applied to University of Alabama, Auburn, UAB, Samford, Spring Hill, and 10 others around the Southeast. The rejections came one by one. We regret to inform you, while your application showed promise, due to the competitive nature, we don't feel we can provide appropriate support. 13 rejections, 2 acceptances, Huntington College in Montgomery and the University of Alabama at Birmingham. UAB was the bigger school, better pre-med program, but farther from home. Huntington was smaller, closer, but didn't have the same science resources. What do you think, baby? I asked Isaiah. He was 18 years old, sitting at our kitchen table with both acceptance letters in front of him. He looked at me with those eyes that still reminded me of the first moment I held him. UAB, he said. Better for medical school. That means I'd need to move to Birmingham, find new work. Mama, you don't have to. Yes, I do, I said. We're a team. Where you go, I go. So in August 2016, we moved to Birmingham. I was 56 years old, starting over in a new city. Found a 1-bedroom apartment in Southside for $650 a month. Got a job cleaning for a company called Pristine Services, $8.50 an hour, 40 hours a week. Isaiah started at UAB as a biology major. Isaiah's first semester was rough. He took Biology 101, Chemistry 101, Calculus 1, English Composition, and Introduction to Psychology. The science and math, he aced them. Biology, A. Chemistry, A. Calculus, A-. English Composition, C. Psychology, C-. Writing is hard for me, Mama, Isaiah said, showing me his grades. And psychology is all about understanding feelings and motivations. I don't always get that. His GPA first semester, 2.8. Dr. Whitman helped us strategize. Isaiah needs to minimize humanities and maximize sciences, switch to more lab-based classes, independent studies, research. We met with Isaiah's advisor, Dr. Patterson, no relation to my old neighbor. He looked at Isaiah's grades and nodded. Your science scores are exceptional, he said. Medical schools care about science GPA more than overall GPA. Let's build your schedule around your strengths. By Isaiah's junior year, he was taking molecular biology, organic chemistry, advanced anatomy, physics 2, and genetics lab. His GPA in science courses, 3.9. But it wasn't just grades. Isaiah started doing research with Dr. Patterson's lab, studying genetic disorders. He co-authored a paper, Savant Syndrome Presentation in Down Syndrome, a Case Study. It was published in the Journal of Developmental Disabilities in December 2018. My son, the one Robert called defective, was published in a medical journal at age 20. Isaiah applied to medical schools during fall of his senior year. 29 schools. Every application cost $40. Every secondary application cost another $25 to $60. Total cost, over $3,000. I was 59 years old, still cleaning offices. My back hurt all the time now. Arthritis in my hands made it hard to grip the mop. But I worked overtime, extra shifts, weekends, whatever it took. Isaiah took the MCAT in May 2019. Studied 6 hours a day for 3 months. He scored 506. Not amazing, average is around 500, competitive is 510 or higher, but acceptable. The rejections started coming in October. Thank you for your interest in Harvard Medical School. Johns Hopkins appreciates your application. Stanford regrets to inform you. 27 rejections. 2 interview invitations. Meharry Medical College in Nashville, and the University of Alabama at Birmingham School of Medicine. The UAB interview was on January 15, 2020. Isaiah wore a suit we bought at Goodwill for $35. I altered it myself to fit him perfect. We sat in the waiting room with 10 other candidates. They looked confident. Expensive suits, designer bags. One girl was talking about her father, the cardiologist. Another guy mentioned his mother, the surgeon. Isaiah sat quiet, hands folded in his lap. When they called his name, I squeezed his hand. "You've got this, baby." "I know, Mama." He was in that interview room for 90 minutes. When he came out, his face was unreadable. "How'd it go?" I asked in the car. "They asked me why I want to be a doctor," Isaiah said. "What did you say?" "I told them about you, about how you worked 3 jobs so I could have therapy, about how people told you I'd never amount to anything, about how I want to be the doctor that kids like me need to see." "What did they say?" "They asked me to prove I could remember complex information, so I recited the entire cranial nerve table from my anatomy textbook. All 12 nerves, their functions, their pathways. Then they asked me to solve a differential diagnosis. I did. I waited. The dean said," Isaiah continued, "Isaiah, I'm going to be honest with you. You would be the first medical student with Down syndrome in this institution's history. That's a lot of pressure. Are you ready for that?" "What did you say?" "I said I've been under pressure my whole life. This is just the next challenge." The acceptance letter came on March 10, 2020. Full scholarship. I fell to my knees in that apartment and thanked God like I'd never thanked him before. Medical school was everything Isaiah dreamed and nothing like he expected. First year was brutal. Anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, histology, all at once. 8 hours of lectures a day, hundreds of pages to read every night. Practicals where you had to identify every structure in a cadaver. Isaiah's classmates were brilliant. Most came from wealthy families. Most had doctors for parents. Most had never struggled for anything. And most looked at Isaiah like he didn't belong. One student, Michael Chen, was particularly vocal. I met him once when I dropped off lunch for Isaiah during exams. "Mrs. Johnson?" Michael said, approaching me in the hallway. "I just wanted to tell you, your son is very brave, trying this." The way he said trying, like Isaiah was attempting something impossible. "My son isn't trying," I said calmly. "He's succeeding." Michael smiled that smile. "We'll see. Med school has a way of weeding people out." But here's what Michael didn't know about my son. Isaiah might process things differently, might need more time for some tasks, but once something was in his brain, it stayed there. Forever. Perfect. When first-year shelf exams came, standardized tests that every medical student in the country takes, Isaiah scored 95th percentile. 95th percentile. Higher than Michael Chen. Higher than most of his class. The professors started noticing. Not just noticing, recommending him for research projects. By second year, Isaiah was working with Dr. Rodriguez's genetics lab, studying rare genetic disorders in children. Third year was clinical rotations. That's when medical students actually work in hospitals, seeing patients. Isaiah struggled with some of it. Surgery rotation was hard because the fine motor skills required for suturing didn't come naturally to him. He had to practice 3 hours a day for 2 months to get adequate at stitching. But pediatrics? Pediatrics was where Isaiah shined. There was a case I heard about later. A 4-year-old girl came in with seizures that nobody could explain. 7 different neurologists had seen her. All the tests came back normal. Isaiah was on the team. He reviewed her chart one night, cross-referencing with that photographic memory of his. "I've seen this before," he told the attending physician, Dr. Williams. Article in Journal of Medical Genetics, March 2022 issue, page 347. Coffin-Siris syndrome. Rare genetic disorder. The seizure pattern matches. They ran the genetic test. Isaiah was right. The girl's mother posted about it on social media. "The medical student with Down syndrome who saved my daughter." It went viral. 20,000 shares. Isaiah hated the attention. "I'm just doing my job, Mama," he said. "I know, baby, but you're making a difference." Match day is the day 4th-year medical students find out where they'll do their residency, the 3 to 7 years of specialized training after medical school. It happens in March. Every medical student in the country opens an envelope at the same time. Isaiah applied to 15 pediatrics programs. His application included his research, his publications, his clinical evaluations, which were excellent, and letters of recommendation from doctors who believed in him. March 15, 2024. I took the day off work to be there. UAB held a match day ceremony in the auditorium. 150 students, all dressed up, all nervous. I sat in the audience with Dr. Whitman, who'd driven us up from Montgomery to support Isaiah. At noon exactly, the dean said, "Open your envelopes." I watched my son's face as he read the paper inside, watched his eyes fill with tears. He looked up at me and mouthed, Birmingham General Hospital, pediatrics residency, 3 years, the same hospital where 4 years later he'd see his father again for the first time in 28 years. That was 6 months ago. Isaiah started his residency in July 2024. He worked 80-hour weeks, came home exhausted, slept in 4-hour shifts. But he loved it. By December, the program director was already talking about him being chief resident, the top resident who supervises all the others. Isaiah's diagnostic accuracy is 97%, Dr. Henderson told me when I ran into her at the hospital. That's 12% higher than our next best resident. His memory gives him an edge nobody else has. In January 2024, they made him chief resident, 26 years old, the youngest in the program. Michael Chen, the student who doubted Isaiah, was passed over. He'd made it through medical school, but didn't match for residency in Birmingham. Last I heard, he was in Tuscaloosa, still bitter. Isaiah finally convinced me to stop working in February. "Mama, you've worked for 28 years. You raised me. You sacrificed everything. Now I'm making $73,000 a year. Let me take care of you." He bought a house, a real house. 3 bedrooms on a quiet street in Homewood for $215,000. Put it in my name. "This is yours, Mama. Forever," I cried. Again, for the first time since Isaiah was born, I could sleep past 5 a.m., could go to church on Sundays without rushing to a second shift, could volunteer at the Down Syndrome Association, helping young mothers who were terrified of the diagnosis their babies had. I'd tell them about Isaiah, show them pictures of him in his white coat, tell them, your baby is going to be just fine. Better than fine. September 14th, 2024, Tuesday morning. That's the day Robert walked back into our lives. I'd gotten up at 7, made coffee, sat on my porch reading my Bible. Isaiah had left for the hospital at 5:30 for early rounds. He'd called me at 9. "Mama, can you come to the hospital around 11? I need you to sign some insurance paperwork." "Of course, baby." I got there at 10:45, checked in at the front desk, got my visitor badge, and sat down in the waiting room with a magazine. At 11:12, Robert Sullivan rushed through those doors with his daughter in his arms, and everything I'd been building for 28 years came full circle. I didn't see Isaiah or Robert for the next 4 hours. I went to the hospital cafeteria, got a turkey sandwich I didn't eat, and sat by the window watching people come and go, watching ambulances pull up, watching doctors in white coats rushing between buildings. One of those doctors was my son. At 2:15, my phone rang. "Isaiah." "Mama, you still here?" "I'm in the cafeteria." "Come to the PICU waiting room, 3rd floor, East Wing. We need to talk." The pediatric intensive care unit waiting room was quieter than the main ER. Softer lighting, better chairs, a fish tank in the corner. This was where parents waited while their children fought for their lives. Isaiah was standing by the window when I arrived, still in his white coat. He looked tired. "How's the girl?" I asked. "Stable," he said. "But Mama, this case is complicated, and not just medically." "Tell me." Isaiah pulled out his tablet, showed me charts and numbers I didn't understand. "Savannah Sullivan, 14 years old. She's had epilepsy since she was 6 months old. Severe intractable epilepsy. That means the seizures don't respond to normal medications. Can you help her?" "I think so, but..." He paused. "Robert asked to speak to you. He's in the consultation room. I'll be right there with you." "Baby, you don't have to..." "Yes, I do," Isaiah said firmly. "He's still technically my biological father, and I'm still her doctor. This needs to be handled right." Room 304B was small. 2 chairs, a desk, a box of tissues on the windowsill. Robert sat in one chair, hunched over, looking like he'd aged 10 years in 4 hours. He stood when we entered. Dorothy, Isaiah, thank you for… Dr. Johnson, Isaiah corrected gently. In this hospital, I'm Dr. Johnson. Robert flinched. Right, Dr. Johnson. I don't know where to start. Start with Savannah, Isaiah said, sitting down and opening his tablet. I need complete medical history. Every doctor she's seen, every medication tried, every test result. Can you provide that? I have most of it, Robert said, pulling out a worn folder. She's seen 17 neurologists in 14 years. We've tried 9 different anti-seizure medications, 3 hospitalizations last year alone. The seizures are getting worse. Isaiah took the folder, started reading. His eyes moved fast, that photographic memory recording everything. Her mother? Isaiah asked, not looking up. Rachel. We divorced 2 years ago. Is she involved in Savannah's care? Robert's jaw tightened. No, she couldn't handle it. The seizures, the hospital stays, the constant worry. She left. I couldn't help it. That must have been hard. Robert looked at me, really looked at me. Yes, it was. Is. He turned back to Isaiah. Doctor, can you help her? Everyone else has said there's nothing more they can do, that we just have to manage it. But watching her seize 4 or 5 times a week, his voice cracked. She's 14. She should be at school, hanging out with friends. Instead, she's terrified to go anywhere because she might have a seizure. Isaiah was quiet for a long moment, still reading through the folder. Then he said, Mr. Sullivan, I need to ask you something, and I need you to be completely honest. Anything. Is there any family history of seizures on either side? No, Rachel's family is healthy. My family… Robert paused. My brother had cerebral palsy, but no seizures. What about genetic testing? Has Savannah had a comprehensive genetic panel? The neurologist mentioned it, but said it probably wouldn't show anything useful. Isaiah looked up. Mr. Sullivan, I'd like to run a full genetic workup. There's a specific condition called glucose transporter type 1 deficiency, GLUT1. It presents exactly like Savannah's case. Early onset seizures, resistance to medications, but normal MRI. It's rare. Most doctors don't think to test for it. And if she has it? It's treatable, Isaiah said. Not with medications, but with a specific ketogenic diet and targeted therapy. I've seen cases where seizures reduce by 90% or stop completely. Robert's hands started shaking. You're saying she could be normal? I'm saying, Isaiah corrected carefully, that she could have significantly better quality of life. But I need to run the tests first. They'll take 3 to 5 days for results. Do it, Robert said. Do whatever you need to do. Cost doesn't matter. Isaiah glanced at me, then back at Robert. Mr. Sullivan, I need to be clear about something. I'm treating Savannah because she's my patient, and she deserves the best care I can provide. This is not about our connection. This is about medicine. I understand, Robert said quietly. Isaiah, Dr. Johnson, I know I have no right to ask, but thank you. Isaiah stood. I'll order the tests now. She'll stay here for observation. You can see her in about an hour. He left the room. I stood to follow, but Robert said, Dorothy, wait, please. I should have walked out. Should have left him sitting there alone like he'd left me alone in that hospital room 26 years ago. But I didn't. I sat back down. You have 5 minutes. Robert looked at his hands. They were shaking. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't expect anything. I need you to understand. Understand what? That you abandoned your son because he wasn't perfect? Yes, Robert said, and the honesty shocked me. That's exactly what I did. And I need you to know why. He took a breath. My brother, Tommy. He was born when I was 8 years old. Cerebral palsy, severe. Couldn't walk, couldn't talk, needed round-the-clock care. My parents devoted everything to him. Everything. My mother quit her job. My father worked 2 jobs to pay for therapy and equipment. That's what parents do, I said. I know, but I was 8, and suddenly I was invisible. Every birthday, every school event, every accomplishment, it all took second place to Tommy's needs. I'm not saying I didn't love him. I did. But I resented him. Resented what his disability did to our family. Robert's voice dropped. When I was 16, Tommy died. Pneumonia. He was in a group home because my parents couldn't handle the care anymore. My mother had a breakdown, started drinking. My father buried himself in work. They divorced within a year. And I thought Tommy's disability destroyed our family. He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. So when the doctor said Isaiah might have Down syndrome, all I could see was my childhood happening again. The struggle, the sacrifice, the slow destruction of everything. I panicked. I ran. You ran, I repeated. You chose cowardice. I did, Robert admitted. And I told myself I was protecting myself, protecting you even from the life I'd lived. But really, I was just afraid. And then you had Savannah. Rachel got pregnant 5 years after I left you. I thought it was my second chance, a chance to do it right, to have the normal family I'd always wanted. He laughed bitterly. Except when Savannah was 6 months old, she had her first seizure, then another, then they didn't stop, and I realized I'd become my parents. You stayed with her, I said, because Rachel made me. She said if I left, she'd leave too, so I stayed. I learned to give medications, handle seizures, rush to emergency rooms. I became the father I should have been to Isaiah. He covered his face with his hands. But it was too late. 28 years too late. I sat there, looking at this broken man, and I didn't feel satisfaction. I didn't feel vindicated. I just felt tired. Robert, I said quietly, you're right. It is too late. You can't get back those years. You can't undo abandoning your son, but you can be the father Savannah needs now. I'm trying, he said. I've given up everything for her. Rachel got the house in the divorce, the savings, everything. I live in a studio apartment, work 2 jobs to pay for her medical bills. Her insurance dropped us last year, pre-existing condition. We're on state Medicaid now. Good, I said, and he looked up, confused. Good that you're sacrificing. Good that you're struggling. Because now you know what I did for Isaiah. Now you understand what it costs to love a child who needs more than most. Robert nodded slowly. He's extraordinary. Your son, Dr. Johnson. When he examined Savannah, he was so gentle, so thorough. He explained everything to her in ways she could understand. And the other doctors, they defer to him. They respect him. He looked at me. You did that. You made that happen. No, I corrected. Isaiah did that. I just refused to give up on him. I'm sorry, Robert said, for everything, for leaving, for the things I said, for not being the man you deserved, the father he deserved. I'm so sorry. I know you are, I said, standing up. But sorry doesn't change the past. It just means you know you were wrong. What matters now is Savannah. Be for her what you couldn't be for Isaiah. I walked to the door, then turned back. And Robert, Isaiah doesn't need you. He never did. He had me. That was enough. 3 days later, Isaiah called me at 7 in the morning. Mama, I need to tell you something about Savannah's test results. Did you find what's wrong? Yes. She has GLUT1 deficiency, just like I thought. We can treat it, but he paused. There's something else. The genetic panel showed something unexpected. What? Savannah and Robert don't share DNA. He's not her biological father. I sat down on my porch step. Are you sure? The lab ran it twice to confirm. Mama, I have to tell him. It's medically relevant. We need accurate family history. But I wanted you to know first. How are you feeling about this? Isaiah was quiet for a moment. Honestly, I don't know. Part of me thinks it's cosmic justice. He rejected his biological son, and now he's raising a daughter who isn't biologically his. But mostly I just feel sad for Savannah. She didn't ask for any of this. No, baby, she didn't. I'm meeting with Robert this afternoon. Can you be there? You want me there? I do, Isaiah said. I think he'll need someone. And even though I'm angry at him for what he did to us, I don't want to destroy him. My son, always thinking of others, even those who'd hurt him. That afternoon, Isaiah, Robert, and I met in the same consultation room. Isaiah sat behind the desk, professional. I sat to the side, Robert sat across from us, nervous. "Mr. Sullivan," Isaiah began, "I have Savannah's results. The good news is we've confirmed GLUT1 deficiency. With dietary changes and specific medication, we can significantly reduce or eliminate her seizures." Robert's face lit up. That's incredible. When can we start?" "Right away. I've already consulted with our nutritionist and neurologist, but there's something else I need to discuss with you." Isaiah pulled out a document. "The genetic testing revealed an unexpected finding." "What kind of finding?" Isaiah's voice was gentle but firm. "The DNA analysis shows that you and Savannah don't share genetic markers. You're not her biological father." The room went silent. Robert stared at Isaiah, then at the paper, then back at Isaiah. That's impossible. There must be a mistake." "We ran the test twice," Isaiah said. "I'm sorry, but there's no mistake." Robert sat back in his chair like he'd been hit. "Rachel," he whispered. "She had an affair." Nobody spoke. Then Robert started laughing. Not happy laughter. Bitter, broken laughter. Of course she did. And I've been raising another man's child for 14 years. "Mr. Sullivan," Isaiah started. "No," Robert interrupted, still laughing through tears. "This is perfect. Absolutely perfect. I abandoned my biological son because he had Down syndrome, and I spent 14 years raising a daughter who isn't even mine and has a genetic disorder. He covered his face. "That's what I deserve." "Robert," I said quietly, "does Savannah know?" "Know what?" "That you're not her biological father?" He looked up at me. "Rachel told me during the divorce, but Savannah doesn't know. I never told her because by the time I found out she was 12 years old. She's called me Daddy since she could talk. How do you tell a child that?" "You don't," Isaiah said. "Not if you're being her father. Biology doesn't make family. Love does. Care does. Showing up does." Robert looked at Isaiah, really looked at him. "Like your mother did for you." "Yes," Isaiah said. "Exactly like that?" "I don't deserve this," Robert said. "I don't deserve you being kind to me. I don't deserve Savannah's treatment. I don't deserve anything." Isaiah leaned forward. "Mr. Sullivan, I'm not being kind. I'm being a doctor. Savannah deserves treatment regardless of who her father is, and that includes you, the man who's raised her, cared for her, sacrificed for her. That makes you her father where it counts." "But I wasn't that for you," Robert said, his voice breaking. "No," Isaiah agreed. "You weren't, but I don't need you to be. I had my mother. I had people who believed in me. I had Dr. Whitman, Miss Holloway, my professors. I didn't need you then, and I don't need you now." "I know," Robert whispered. "I know." "But Savannah needs you," Isaiah continued. "So here's what's going to happen. We're going to start her treatment. I'm going to personally oversee her care for the next 6 months. And you're going to be the father to her that you should have been to me. Not to earn forgiveness. You'll never have mine. But because it's the right thing to do." Robert nodded, tears streaming down his face. "Thank you." "Don't thank me," Isaiah said, standing up. "Thank my mother. She's the one who taught me that being the bigger person doesn't mean being a doormat. It means doing what's right, even when it's hard." He walked out of the room. Robert looked at me. "Dorothy, Save it," I said, not unkindly. "Just love that girl. That's all that matters now." May 17th, 2025, Saturday evening. The Birmingham Medical Association was holding their annual Healthcare Excellence Awards at the Sheraton downtown. 500 people in formal wear, dinner at $150 a plate, awards for doctors who'd made significant contributions to medicine. Isaiah had been nominated for the Young Physician Excellence Award. When he told me, I cried. "Mama, it's just a nomination," he'd said, smiling. "It's not just anything, baby. It's recognition. It's proof that you belong." I bought a dress for the occasion. First time I'd bought a new dress in 15 years. Isaiah took me to Macy's, insisted on paying. A beautiful navy blue dress with lace sleeves that made me feel elegant. He bought himself a new suit, too, charcoal gray, professionally tailored. We arrived at the Sheraton at 6:30. The ballroom was magnificent. Crystal chandeliers, white tablecloths, centerpieces with roses and lilies. Our table was near the front. Dr. Whitman was there, having driven up from Montgomery. Dr. Rodriguez from UAB, Dr. Henderson, the residency program director, and Isaiah's colleague, Dr. Simone Crawford, a beautiful pediatric cardiologist who'd been making eyes at my son for 3 months now. "Mrs. Johnson," Simone said, hugging me, "you look stunning." "Thank you, baby. You look beautiful yourself." The dinner was served. Filet mignon, roasted vegetables, chocolate mousse for dessert. I barely tasted it. I was too nervous. At 8 o'clock, the awards began. They gave out Community Service Awards, Research Excellence Awards, Lifetime Achievement Awards. Each winner gave a short speech, thanked their colleagues and families. Then the presenter, Dr. Margaret Williams from Children's Hospital, stepped to the podium. Our final award tonight is the Young Physician Excellence Award, given to a doctor under 30 who has demonstrated exceptional clinical skill, compassion, and dedication to advancing medicine. This year's nominees all showed remarkable achievements, but one stood out not just for his clinical excellence, but for the barriers he's broken and the lives he's changed. My heart was pounding. This year's Young Physician Excellence Award goes to Dr. Isaiah Thomas Johnson, Chief Pediatric Resident at Birmingham General Hospital. The room erupted in applause. Isaiah stood, looked at me with tears in his eyes, and walked to the stage. He moved with that slight gait, that difference that kids used to mock. But now he walked with confidence, with pride. Dr. Williams handed him a crystal award and stepped back. Isaiah stood at that podium, looking out at 500 doctors and medical professionals, took a breath, began to speak. "Thank you," he said, his voice clear despite the speech impediment that still made some words harder. "This is an incredible honor, but I need to be honest with you all about something." The room quieted. People ask me all the time, "How did you become a doctor with Down syndrome?" And I used to try to answer that question. But I've realized it's the wrong question. He paused. The right question is, how did I become a doctor because of Down syndrome? I could hear people shifting in their seats, leaning forward. "My disability taught me to see what others miss," Isaiah continued. "It taught me to remember what others forget. It taught me to persist when others quit. My photographic memory, a gift that came with my genetic condition, allows me to recall every article I've read, every case I've studied. It makes me a better diagnostician. But more than that," he said, his voice strengthening, "having Down syndrome taught me empathy. I know what it's like to be underestimated, to have people assume you can't do something before you even try. So when I see a patient who's different, who's struggling, who's been told they'll never achieve something, I see myself, and I fight for them." The room was silent except for Isaiah's voice. "This award has my name on it, but it belongs to someone else." He looked directly at me. "It belongs to my mother, Dorothy Mae Johnson. She was 37 years old when I was born. My father left us in the hospital, told her I was defective, said I'd ruin her life." I could hear people gasping. "My mother worked 3 jobs. She cleaned offices, altered clothes, did whatever it took to pay for my therapy. She got 4 hours of sleep a night for 10 years. She sold everything she owned to send me to college. She moved to a new city at 56 years old so I could go to medical school. Every single thing I've achieved is because she refused to believe the limitations the world tried to put on me." Isaiah's voice cracked. "Mama, can you stand up, please?" I stood, tears streaming down my face, as 500 people stood with me and applauded. "The world says people with Down syndrome can't be doctors," Isaiah said. "But the world is wrong, because disability isn't in our chromosomes. It's in the minds of those who underestimate us. And the cure for that disability isn't medicine. It's love. Unconditional, sacrificial, never giving up love." He held up the award. "This is for every parent who's been told their child will never amount to anything. For every kid with a disability who's been told to lower their expectations. For every person who's been counted out before they even started. You are not your diagnosis. You are not your limitations. You are who you choose to become." The room exploded in applause. People were crying, standing, cheering. Isaiah left the stage and walked straight to me, wrapped me in his arms. "Thank you, Mama, for everything." I held my baby and cried into his shoulder. "You did this, Isaiah. This is all you." "No," he whispered. "This is us." 1 year later, I'm 64 years old, sitting on the porch of the house my son bought me, drinking coffee and watching the sunrise. My phone rings. It's Isaiah. "Mama, you free this afternoon? I want to bring someone by." "Simone?" He laughs. "Yes, Simone. There's something we want to ask you." 2 hours later, my son pulls up with Dr. Simone Crawford. She's wearing a simple sundress, her hair natural and beautiful. They walk up the porch steps holding hands. "Mama," Isaiah says, smiling that smile that's gotten me through everything. Simone and I are engaged. I hug them both, crying happy tears. "Mrs. Johnson," Simone says, "I wanted you to hear it from us first. Isaiah is the best man I've ever known, and I know that's because of you." We sit on the porch, drinking sweet tea, talking about wedding plans. Simone wants to get married at the hospital chapel. "Because that's where Isaiah's doing God's work," she says. My phone buzzes. A text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Johnson, this is Savannah Sullivan. Dr. Isaiah wanted me to tell you, I've been seizure-free for 8 months. I'm back in school. I'm on the honor roll. Thank you for raising him. He saved my life." I show Isaiah the text. He smiles. "She's doing great, Mama. Really great." "And her father?" "Robert brought her for her 6-month follow-up last week. He's working at a construction company, making decent money. He's taking classes at night to become a civil engineer again. He asked about you." "What did you tell him?" "That you're doing well, that you're happy, that you've moved on." Isaiah pauses. "He asked if he could write you a letter. I told him I'd ask." "No," I say gently. "There's nothing more to say. He's taking care of Savannah. That's enough." "That's what I thought you'd say." We sit in comfortable silence, watching the neighborhood come to life. Kids riding bikes, people walking dogs. Normal, peaceful, beautiful life. "Isaiah," I say, "do you ever wish things had been different? Wish you didn't have Down syndrome?" He thinks for a long moment. "No, Mama, because if I didn't have Down syndrome, I wouldn't be me. I wouldn't have the memory that makes me a good doctor. I wouldn't have the empathy that helps me connect with patients. I wouldn't understand struggle, so I wouldn't know how to help people through theirs." He squeezes my hand. "Down syndrome isn't something I overcame. It's part of who I am, and I'm proud of who I am." "So am I, baby. So am I." 3 months ago, I started volunteering at the Alabama Down Syndrome Association. Every week, I meet with new mothers who've just received the diagnosis. I see the fear in their eyes, the uncertainty, the worry about the future. I tell them about Isaiah, show them pictures of him in his white coat, teaching medical students, getting his award. Tell them about the little boy who wasn't supposed to amount to anything becoming a doctor who saves lives. Last week, a young woman, couldn't have been more than 25, came in with her 3-month-old son. She was crying. "They told me he has Down syndrome," she said. "I don't know what to do. I don't know if I can handle this." I took her hand. "Baby, let me tell you something. I'm Dorothy Mae Johnson. I'm 64 years old. 26 years ago, my husband left me because our son had Down syndrome. Said the boy was defective. Said he'd ruin my life." "What happened?" she asked. "I raised him," I said simply. "I worked 3 jobs. I got 4 hours of sleep a night. I sacrificed everything. And you know what? My son is now Dr. Isaiah Johnson, Chief Pediatric Resident at Birmingham General Hospital. He saves children's lives. He's engaged to a beautiful woman. He bought me a house. He made every single hard day worth it." The young woman's eyes widened. "Your son is Dr. Johnson? The one who was in the news?" "That's him." She looked down at her baby. "So he's going to be okay?" "Better than okay," I promised. "He's going to be exactly who he's meant to be, and it's going to be beautiful." I learned something in these 64 years. I learned that strength isn't about never falling. It's about getting back up, every single time. I learned that love isn't about perfect circumstances. It's about choosing to stay when everything says run. I learned that the greatest victories aren't loud or flashy. They're quiet. They're steady. They're waking up every day and doing the hard work because it's the right work. Robert Sullivan taught me something too, though he didn't mean to. He taught me that fear can make cowards of anyone, that running from difficulty doesn't make you strong. It makes you empty, that the things we're most afraid of are often the things that would have saved us if we'd only had the courage to stay. I don't hate Robert. I don't even pity him anymore. I just see him as a lesson, a reminder of what I could have become if I'd let fear win. My son is getting married in 4 months. He's building a life with a woman who loves him for exactly who he is. He's changing medicine, one patient at a time. He's proving that limitations are lies we tell ourselves. And me? I'm sitting on my porch at 64 years old, drinking coffee, watching the sunrise, knowing that every tear was worth it. Every sleepless night, every aching back, every moment of doubt. Because at the end of the day, I didn't raise a doctor. I raised a man, a good man, my son. And that's the greatest success story I could ever tell.